Laura said, what we want to do is just give you a little bit of a preview of what's coming this fall. Obviously give you an opportunity to come out here and take a look at the site. Obviously there's a lot of work going on, new pavement going down almost every day out here with our contractor, Scarcella Brothers. They're the contractor that's responsible after STP finished mining and finished building the launch pit. They're the ones that came in and they're building these surface streets that are going to connect the whole grid and finish this, essentially this interchange. The detour that was built in 2011 crossed this site and allowed Seattle Tunnel Partners to come in here and build a launch pit and put berth underground. The last big closure for us is to take that detour out and realign SR 99 into the tunnel, northbound and southbound. So that's where we're standing right now today. We have some work this weekend. We're doing a southbound closure on 99 this weekend. Part of that is some prep work necessary for the big fall closure. We've got a little bit of utility work to do. We're going to straighten out the detour southbound a little bit, shifting the roadway to the east and elongating the ramp, the off-ramp to Atlantic Street. So a little bit of that work is underway. We coordinate all these closures with all of the agencies. We've got a big Pride Festival this weekend. We got Sounders this weekend. We're working closely with everybody to minimize, get the word out and minimize impacts as much as possible. But this is a bit of a preview for this fall. And as Laura said, the schedule is still undefined. STP is working diligently to finish the commissioning of the systems, doing pre-functional and functional tests on all that equipment, and then integration tests to make sure all the equipment talks to one another. That work's underway. There's still several months of that to go. When and only when they have finished that work and the testing is all complete will we open the tunnel to traffic. And before we do that, there's this approximately 3-week closure that begins what we call permanent viaduct closure, PVC, that begins that work. And that closure allows Scarcella Brothers, the contractor that's out here today, to connect this, where we're standing, this is the southbound on-ramp, connects that into the SR 99 main line. So those are the things that we're going to be working on during that 3-week closure. There's some ramp closures around that period of time that will affect some folks. We'll show you some graphics here. If you'd like to talk more details about that, I'm happy to walk you through individual ramp closures. But that's kind of a preview to what we're trying to do this fall. And then ahead of that, that will then set the stage for demo to begin. After the closure has occurred, tunnel is open to traffic, then we will start the demo of the viaduct. So, kind of an overview of what we got. I'll take some questions if you guys have them.
I saw online that there's, just in addition to the 3 weeks, there's then 2 weeks more where a ramp won't be open or something. I wasn't able to read the whole thing.
Yeah, so we have some of that on these graphics behind me. There is a, following the 3-week closure, there is about another 7 to 10 days of a closure of one of the ramps. And I can provide you that detail behind me specifically. But it basically means that folks coming from West Seattle will have to get off at Spokane Street. You won't be able to get off at Dearborn. The Dearborn exit is the one that's right behind me, this bridge that goes up and over the on-ramps. That won't be completed in the 3-week period. We'll need another week and a half to do that work.
Because that's going to be the major ramp for coming from West Seattle going to downtown.
That's the major ramp coming from West Seattle that comes into the city. It'll be the last off-ramp before you go into the tunnel and then, bypass the city.
That's going to be sort of a failure point for buses. Are there any temporary bus lanes during that extra 10 days?
Well, we've been coordinating with, certainly they're going to be in that situation for the full 3 weeks and then this extra period of time. So they'll have they'll have been dealing with that. There is mitigation. We're working closely with King County Metro to either provide additional buses or additional capacity on those buses, or try to find other ways to get people in and out of Seattle, because there is that pinch point down south. They're going to have to try to work their way up 1st and 4th Avenue.
Is the city going to commandeer a lane of 4th Avenue South for a busway, or is WashDOT negotiating that?
That's still undetermined. I mean, we're working with the city on that. A lot of this is work in progress. We still have a few more months, obviously, to get those things ironed out. It'd be nice to do that, but then again, there's always trade-offs with other work. So let me take another question I had.
How much notice?
Graham.
How much notice will people get ahead of this closure?
Our goal is to give about a month's notice before the closure begins. We've got some commitments to our partner agencies on that, and we think that gives the public time to make plans. We're trying to get the word out now that this is coming. When we closed the SR-99 during the tunneling operation, we went underneath the viaduct. We gave somewhere in the neighborhood of a couple weeks notice, so this will be more time than we gave then.
So when you talked about the October possibility of opening, are we still in that realm? I mean, would that put this potentially in September, or give any?
I don't want to get specific with that. It's this fall. All those time frames you just gave, Graham, are still in the mix. It just depends on STP's ability to commission and get all this final testing done. You know, obviously we want it to happen as soon as possible. The viaduct needs to come down, and you know, we need to get the traffic off the viaduct as soon as we can. So we're working hard to make that, but I don't have a hard date for you yet. But we will give about a month's notice when we're ready to actually close the viaduct.
But their schedule hasn't changed, has it? I mean, they're posted estimated August being done.
There's been some slight tweaks to their schedule. They're still showing an August turnover to the state.
So what is your sort of range as to when you're thinking about opening at the earliest, not a hard date, but something like whatever, and how, so from the earliest to the latest, kind of what's the thinking now?
Well, I want to continue to say this fall. Their schedule is still saying they'll turn it over to the state in late August. There still has to be this period of the 3-week closure and other work that has to happen. So, I mean, our goal all along is to try to have this open by Thanksgiving. There's a lot of work that has to happen in order to make that date.
In terms of this weekend, on Monday morning, are the southbound lanes south if you're going to be in their permanent position? I notice there's an abutment right now that's built that's not occupied. Are you just gonna, is that the permanent location?
Okay, so the southbound closure this weekend actually only goes through Sunday morning.
Sunday morning.
Right,
okay.
So we're only closing it for about 36 hours. It won't be in its final configuration, but it'll be much more in alignment with what the final configuration looks like. And there's some graphics behind me that shows that. Again, we still have to close the detour and build the piece of pavement that goes between what STP has built and what Skanska built back in the day. So when that detour comes out, then the final connection can be made.
Right, but the peak of it, next to the peak of it, is that the permanent connection?
I'm not following you.
Where you climb right here. There's an empty area left where those orange cones are.
Well, that's the finished roadway. So this is going to shift where that loader's right now. This is going to shift the roadway slightly to the east and create a better alignment with the current 99 south of here. But you still have to, where we're standing, we're on the southbound on-ramp.
Yeah.
This still has to, we have to still put pavement here, due south to tie into that main line.
Okay.
So there's some shifting, and all this work we're doing this weekend helps us better prepare and get ready for the permanent viaduct closure 3-week period.
In terms of mitigation during the 3-week closure, I mean, is there any extra money for buses? Wasn't there money, for under the viaduct closure and that kind of thing?
Yeah, we did do some mitigation with Metro. We've got a number of different mitigations that we're exploring. A lot of it's what we did when we tunneled under the viaduct those 9 days, working closely with SDOT's Traffic Management Center, with Metro's transit buses and mitigation there, getting the word out to the water taxi and adding capacity on their passenger-only vessels out of West Seattle to encourage people to shuttle into the to the West Seattle side and take the water taxi over. All those things that we did back then are on the table. We're also trying to up our outreach to corporate and public agency employers downtown Seattle to get the word out to employees, let them know this is coming. You know, talk about opportunities to telework, talk about opportunities to you know, adjust your work day, come in a little bit early, leave a little bit later, whatever you can do to sort of minimize obviously all the attention that I-5 is going to get, 1st Avenue, 4th Avenue, those routes.
What's your message for people when we've heard these closures in the past? You know, it's been classic in the last many years here where it's really turned out to be not as bad as people have said, but this one is 3 weeks. So how do you sort of message that to people who might be, oh, I remember we had that, it wasn't that bad?
Well, in part it wasn't that bad because people took the message and they changed the way they came in and got around town. We always see much lower volumes those first few days, even the first week. But people start seeing that things aren't as bad, and then they start coming back to their routes. Congestion starts to build. The problem here is that the closure is going to last longer than the 9-day closure we had in 2016. So, you know, there's just keeping vigilant with our messaging, encouraging people to telework, find other ways to get into town over that period of time. Be patient, give yourself extra time to get to work. We'll get all through this hopefully relatively unscathed.
Can you talk about any kind of timeline for demolition of the viaduct?
Again, everything's predicated around STP getting the commissioning done. The goal is as soon as we got cars in the tunnel is we're starting those first initial demo activities at Columbia and up on the Pike Hill Climb area. So we have a contractor on board, Kiewit Infrastructure West. They're going to be doing the demo. They're excited to get started with that. It's a design-build contract. They've got a lot of work to do. They think it's going to take them about 6 months to demolish the viaduct. So the sooner we can get STP out of here, the sooner we can get this closure and the traffic in the tunnel, the sooner we can start taking the viaduct down.
6 months is a lower number than we've heard in the past. Are there any interesting technical concepts that they're proposing?
Well, contractors are incentivized to get this work done as quickly as possible, and when we evaluated their proposals, a lot of the contractors thought they could do the work in that period of time. WSDOT had a little less optimistic view when we were doing the planning that it might take 9 months. So, but the way we set up the proposal process, the contractors were encouraged to try to work faster and get the work done quicker. And so that all 3 of the 4 proposers had a time frame of about 6 months.
In general, what method are they going to use to protect brand new buildings that are only 10 feet away from the viaduct?
Yeah, obviously that's a big important part of this work is they'll build shrouds and you know, blankets that drape off of the viaduct structure, any kind of protection that has to happen, not just for the buildings but for the utilities, the roadway underneath. We don't want falling debris affecting any part of the roadway underneath or the sidewalks. So that's all contained. Kiewit has in their proposal a number of different types of measures to minimize flying debris and any kind of material that would reach a building.
If you can open by Thanksgiving, would that potentially mean that deconstruction of the viaduct could start in December? Or, I mean, how much hope is there that it might start this calendar year?
Well, again, everything's predicated around STP. If things work out well and we could have the tunnel open by Thanksgiving, there is some early work Kiewit could do at Columbia, for example, that they could take down the Columbia ramp. The bulk of the demo work is scheduled to start January 2nd, really. But there is some early work that they would like to jump on if the tunnel is opened in November.
Is the holiday season a factor in that?
We have holiday moratoriums that we work through with the city. That area, there's some flexibility to start some early work there with the city, so we've agreed to that. So that'd be good.
So while you're at it, what's happening in the tunnel right now?
Really, it's a lot of testing. They've finished the roadway structure. They've started striping, hanging signs. All the equipment's in. It's just a matter of going around and testing everything. It's really there's over 5,000 different instruments inside the tunnel that need to be tested. and those systems need to be tested individually and then as groups of devices that talk to one another, and then integrated with other devices, so that if a heat detector goes off, that system not only communicates it to the fire suppression system that there's a potential fire, but also to other emergency systems such as our traffic management center and other systems outside the tunnel. All those systems have to be tested to make sure they work, so that if there is something that happens inside the tunnel, whether it's a car breaks down or there's a fire or whatever, then all the systems are up and operational on that first day.
What will be done with that white building over there, and does that property or any other property become available for housing or parks?
So the Washington State DOT purchased properties. The 1051 building is one of those that we purchased as part of this project. There were buildings on this site before we started this project that were taken down to build this project. Those properties, the plan is to surplus those properties. There's a long, lengthy process for that, and we still use that as a field office, so that's several years out before we would even think about doing that.
Several years, not you won't be able to tear it down once the demolition is finished?
Well, again, that's several years out. Demolition is scheduled to run until 2020, and then we have the South Access Project Phase 2 that comes in and sort of finishes the work on First Avenue and Dearborn, and the sort of the last collection of sort of cleanup projects that are needed to finish this. That work goes into 2021. So we got a few more years in that building.
Can you refine that a little bit? So it's 6 months to tear down the viaduct. What is going to be going on until 2020, and what was the part till 2021?
Well, so there's 3 projects that are part of that contract. There's the demo, then there's the infilling of the Battery Street Tunnel, and then there's the North Surface Streets projects, which is North Portal of Battery Street up to Mercer. All 3 of those projects are in this design-build contract we have with Kiewit. Their first order of business is to tear down the viaduct, but they have those other 2 projects that they have to build, and those could, depending on how their schedule plays out, those could extend into early 2020 before they have those finished.
Have they decided whether to fill the Battery Street Tunnel with pieces of the viaduct?
That's an option that they have. They're still looking at that. There's use of some lightweight, high-density concrete that they're also looking at as a way to backfill that. They can't use all of it of an aggregate because you can't get equipment in there to actually do it. At some point they need to switch to a flowable type material. So, but they're looking at that. They're certainly weighing that as an option.
Looks like the closure this weekend, obviously much shorter, and at least from looking at this map, it looks like the changes are pretty minimal. Right?
Yeah, they're pretty minimal. I mean, if you look closely behind you guys, we are shifting this. The traffic that's heading south on here is shifting over onto the new pavement where that loader is now. They're going to shift over onto that, and so it's going to straighten this out a little bit better align it for when the 3-week closure comes in and they connect that. There's some underground work as part of that we have to do that you won't see, but the subtle change will be when drivers come in on Sunday morning and Monday morning. You'll notice that the kink is taken out of that and it's a little bit straighter.
Why did you guys pick Saturday when there's a soccer game rather than Sunday where there's not a SOTO event?
These are always negotiations, and the Pride Festival attracts about 400,000 people at the Seattle Center. We have a parade downtown on Sunday morning, and so we're just trying to juggle everybody's interests. There's never a perfect time that there's never an event. There's always something that we're working around, and this is a southbound closure. The impact to the Sounders would be about 10 o'clock on Saturday night. Certainly they don't want, we've talked to them about that, but at 10 o'clock at night, there's a lot of other ways to get out of town. So.
Yeah. So the Pride Festival is thought to be a bigger impact, even though it's north of here?
Yeah, that's a big impact. Certainly we're going to impact them on folks leaving the event on Saturday, but we elected to allow this closure to be opened up by Sunday morning.
Any more closures coming up like this in the months ahead before the big closure?
We have some night work that we'll be doing, so you'll see some of that, sort of the 10 o'clock to 5 a.m. We'll have those types of closures. We're looking at another closure similar to this weekend's. we're really trying to find a spot to do it. We've got a lot of, Mariner games and eventually Seahawk games and Husky games, other events downtown. So it's really trying to find a nice weekend that works, maximizes the number of daylight hours the contractor has to work, minimizes the impact to the traveling public. We're still working on that. We hope to, in a few months, have another closure like this. Anything else?
There's graphics here. You guys have them on the